Yo guys, what's going on? It's me, back at it again with another epic YouTube video, and today we're talking about superficial relationships, okay? Now this is a very important topic for a variety of reasons. We're gonna get into those, and you might be asking me, why the fuck am I wearing a mask? Why am I wearing a ski mask? This isn't how I normally do videos, and that is to tie it in with superficial relationships, friendships, interactions that you have with other people. So we're gonna take the mask off now, but just know this one thing. Pretty much everybody that you talk to, everybody you meet initially, or maybe always, they're wearing a mask. You can't always see this mask, but this video is gonna help you navigate how to see when someone's wearing a mask. All right, guys, now that we have the mask off, hopefully you can actually hear me a bit better. I fucking hate wearing ski masks because they're just kind of stupid, but I wanted to visualize wearing a mask. You know, you can't really get a huge idea of who somebody is when they're wearing a mask. You can't see their face. You don't know what they look like. It's the same type of thing in real life when you're talking to other people. A lot of people will put up this guard. They will put up this mask to protect themselves, to hide themselves from other people. And this video is all about superficial relationships because sometimes it's important. You know, you want to be, at least for me, I want to be surrounding myself with people who are authentic and real, and they've got your back, you know, and you can trust that they've got your back. Now let's talk about what the word superficial means. So I'll probably put it up on the screen here. You can see there are multiple definitions. So let's run through them and get an understanding of what this word means. So superficial by itself, when you're talking to something physical, it can mean that it exists or occurs at or on the surface. Like Google's example right there, the building suffered only superficial damage. Now, this kind of makes sense once we delve into the understanding of superficial a little bit more. I want to look at the third one there, and that one says, appearing to be true or real only until examined more closely. What does this basically mean? Essentially, it means it's shallow, lacking depth, and surface level. So think about an acquaintance, for example, somebody you kind of just meet. So in the cases of relationships, a superficial one would be one that mostly stays surface level. Obviously, you know, there's some interactions here and there, but overall, there's not much depth to it. You know, you don't have these deep conversations with this person. You don't know them on a very deep level. You just kind of know them, but you don't really know them. There's not much genuine care or emotional investment. There's not much opening up or trust for that matter. And on the contrast, a meaningful relationship with somebody, something that goes in depth, is pretty much the complete opposite. You can say, yes, I really know this person. You can say, I know them quite well. We're great friends. We have a lot of trust. There's some emotional connection. There's understanding. With a meaningful relationship, the conversations you have can go deep. Obviously not always, doesn't always have to be that way. But the most important thing is you feel that support. You feel safe talking to this person. Now, what are some examples of a superficial relationship? How do you know what these things are? If you go to a lot of parties, you might have that one friend that you kind of only really see at parties. You only really hang out with them at parties. Outside of that setting, you don't really ever see them. You don't talk to them. Maybe a colleague, someone that you kind of just, you know, you see at work. You talk to them about the weather, you know, maybe some vague plans on what you're gonna do during the day or the week. Could be people that you have online, whether you're following them on Instagram or whatever it may be. You know, you might like their posts. They might comment on yours. You never really talk to them all that much. Real conversations are rare. Maybe they're friendships that you have that you make during school, or, you know, you go to kind of a club, you know, some kind of team. And once that whole thing fades away, you don't ever really see them again. You don't talk to them again. And a little bit on the deeper side, one-sided relationships, you know, one-sided relationships or friendships. They only really talk about themselves. You might listen, you might be like, yeah, and give them your all, and you don't really receive much of that on the other side. We already went over the signs of superficial relationships, but those are some examples of what they are and how you can kind of differentiate the two. So superficial, or I guess surface level relationships with other people are not always bad. They don't always need to be a bad thing. Sometimes they're actually quite good. Maybe it's just somebody that you put up with. You don't really like, but you kind of just, you know, you put up with them because you don't really want any conflict. You don't really want any issues, not really share your true opinions. Maybe you highly disagree with what they say, but that doesn't really need to be known. To keep the peace And a big part of the reason why I'm talking about superficial relationships is because they contribute overall to a general sense of loneliness. Feeling alone even though maybe you're surrounded by so many people. Why is this? Because these relationships you've developed with these people don't go beyond the surface level. It's kind of the illusion of actually having a connection with people that creates this loneliness, because you think, oh, I have so many friends, but how many of those friends can you really rely on? If something bad was happening to you, would they be there? Maybe they only reach out or you only reach out when it benefits either party. Social media is a big thing these days that create this sense of, I have a lot of friends, and yet, do you really know many of the people that you're following? Do you know many of the people that are following you? It feels good sometimes to be a part of the conversation or a part of something, and that might give you some social satisfaction, but deep down, does it give you the same satisfaction of having genuine connections? I don't know about you guys, but for me, small talk seems like a very exhausting thing, especially in, let's say, like work. I've had so many conversations where it's kind of required. If you work in service, you have to kind of have to put up this like super friendly, outgoing front to make sure that you're giving people good service, right? That can feel a bit exhausting though sometimes because you aren't really getting anything out of it. You're never probably gonna see them again. It's very repetitive, and sometimes this can feel exhausting. Something else that contributes to the exhaustion we feel from these surface level relationships is never feeling like you can really be vulnerable. You're not really safe with them. You kind of have to keep up like this certain image to make sure that people don't really see the real you. Let's say you have a group of people who you're quite friendly with, they laugh at your jokes, you guys have some alright conversations now and again, but do they really know you? Do they know what you love? Do they know your dreams? Do they know what hurts you? What's been going on in your life? What sucks? I mean, no. And while it's not great to be sharing all of this stuff with everybody, because sometimes it's just genuinely not good to trust those people. But what actually is great is having people that you can tell these things and rely on and get support from. All of these things matter, because think about a conversation where you kind of feel like you're putting up a front, and also think about the conversations you have with some really close friends that you can be honest with. There's a big difference, and one definitely feels better than the other. So why is this exhausting? Why is this even an issue, you might be wondering? And sometimes it's not. A lot of the times it isn't. But filling a gap of feeling lonely or like you have nobody to reach out to by kind of amassing the amount of friends or people in your life doesn't always equal good. It doesn't always mean that things are going to be any better, because when you have still so many friends and yet no one to really go to, it actually kind of makes you feel a bit worse. Being around so many people who don't really understand you, don't really want to understand you, is something that feels even lonelier than having no one at all. One of the other things that's a bit complicated about this whole concept is society's expectations of you, how you're supposed to act. In certain scenarios, this is something you just have to put up with. At work, you're not going to be able to be exactly who you are unless you are working in a very casual situation where people are like-minded like you. But in a very corporate world, this doesn't work that well. It's a bit hard sometimes to discern whether someone is being polite or they're being fake. And sometimes this is a necessity. Sometimes you need to be polite to the people that you don't like. Is this being fake? It's hard to say. I would guess so. If it's someone you don't like and you're only being nice to them so that there is no further conflict, so you don't get fired from your job, so you don't lose a bunch of other friends in the process, all of this stuff sometimes is required because it kind of allows people to, I guess, coexist without this constant friction. Nobody really likes drama all that much. Sure, it's interesting to hear about, it's interesting to not really be a part of, but when you are a part of it, it makes you feel like shit. Sometimes, yeah, you have to just be neutral to a certain controversial question. You don't want to be on the wrong side. Generally, you don't really want to be making enemies. Somebody asks you something political or something very controversial that you feel like don't align with what the other person would expect, or maybe you're in a group setting, you should likely just give a neutral response, something like a politician would give, avoiding the question pretty much while giving giving a response that people are all right with. Now, this is where politeness and being a fake person, really, it's hard to discern, because sometimes you kind of do just have to be fake. You have to be overly polite. That becomes borderline someone who's fake. This doesn't mean overall you're a fake person, you have no ability to be genuine. This is just you putting up with people. But when you do this too much, you kind of lose a sense of authenticity within yourself, you know? When you start to consistently condition yourself to be a certain way, you kind of lose out on the real you. And that's why sometimes it's easy to get lost and even wonder, who actually am I? There's a large degree of balance with this, because obviously you don't like everybody in your life that you interact with. But I think part of being a good person is not, I guess, leading these people on into believing that what it is more than what it is. What you see is what you get. That's something that I think you should try and stick to, even though it might be hard sometimes. Part of this whole conversation is being authentic to yourself. And again, it kind of goes back to one of my other videos of your life values. What do you think is important to you? Do you want a ton of superficial relationships? For example, don't put yourself into situations where you find you won't get anything out of it. If somebody asks you to do something, go out for the weekend and go somewhere, and you don't really want to, you have no interest in getting to know this person whatsoever, just say no. Because by doing these things, this is how we kind of create superficial relationships in our lives. This is how we lead people on to believing that you're there for them more than you actually are. And no one really likes that. No one likes being led on. So I think be honest with the people you're around. But again, it's a difficult balance, because you can't really do these things in a workplace. You want to maintain good relationships in a lot of areas of your life, so it's difficult. It is, and that's kind of what makes it exhausting sometimes. But the main question of this video is, do you have real friends? Do you have people, and I don't just mean like, do you have real friends as in the literal sense, like, are you fucking imagining people? Do you have imaginary friends? I mean, that's probably something, if you do, something that you might want to look more into and understand better as to why that's happening. Not that there's anything explicitly wrong with that. It is unrelated to the conversation here entirely. Do you have people that you can go to? Do you have support in your life? Are you putting your efforts into the right people even? It's something important to think about, because there are some people that we do admire, and we're like, okay, yeah, this is somebody I want to get to know better. And yet sometimes it's very easy, especially with the busy lives that we live, to get lost in other people that maybe it's more beneficial for you to talk to them and, you know, develop a bit more of a positive connection with them. But at the end of the day, I think what's most important is getting those really good people on your side, finding people that you can really trust. So I guess the question of today's video is, how many of those people do you have? How many people can you go to for anything? How many people can you go to when you're feeling down, feeling like you're suffocating and have nowhere else to go? Do you have people like that? And I really hope that you do. For me, I know a few years ago, there was a large degree of people that in my life that I had no real ability to do that with. Most of the people I surrounded myself with were not my real friends. People who I would go to for help on things. They weren't even people that I look up to. They're just kind of there. And it's easy to get caught up in this, especially in places like high school, where there's a lot of judgment everywhere, pressures to fit in and be a part of the crowd. But honestly, I think that there is a lot of bravery and self-respect when you decide not to put yourself in these situations. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to distance yourself from people who you know will not benefit you, who you know you're just kind of around because everyone else is around them. The next question for this video is, how many people are there in your life that you can't go to? They're kind of constants in your life. They're there a lot. You see them a lot. Are these people that you could go to? Are these people that you can trust right now? Is it someone that you could open up to if you needed that support? And the next question is that I have for you, and this is probably the most important one: does your number of superficial relationships significantly outbalance your real relationships in a way that you feel poorly about? You feel, wow, I actually really don't have anyone that I can go to. If the number is 0, you should ask yourself why that is. I understand with anxiety, social anxiety, maybe just generally you're anxious. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to be vulnerable with people and make connections. One of the first steps is literally just putting yourself out there. And if you can't see yourself being open with the people that you surround yourself with, it's a really good idea to try and find ways where you can surround yourself with people that you would actually want to be around. You would want to be close with these people. That's generally like-minded people, people with similar interests, people who you relate to. Those are the people you should start with first. Not someone who would really benefit you in societal pressures, you know, expectations of who you should be and what you should be doing at the stage of your life, whether it's your career, relationship-wise, whatever. These are the people that you see as someone you would love to get to know. Genuinely, you have an interest in that person for one reason or another. Maybe they like the same things as you. Maybe you really admire the way that they talk or the way that they think or the ideas that they have. Those are the people you should put your efforts into. I think one thing that a lot of people struggle with is learning to be okay with having less friends, but better relationships, better connections with the people you do have. This is something, again, that I was kind of dealing with for a little bit, is I had a lot of people around me, but not very many people that I really considered to be good friends. And this is one of those things that you kind of work towards all the time because the whole social part of human life is an interesting one for sure, but sometimes it's also quite difficult. Sometimes it really just feels like, like I'm pretty much alone, like I don't got nobody. But then I ask you the question of the people you usually see, the people that you are usually around, are they people that you even like? Are you better off? Is it just you want to fit in generally with the people that you're around, or do you actually even like them? So ask yourself that, because that can make you feel significantly better knowing like, oh fuck, I would never even listen to what these people have to say. Why would I even surround myself with them? Maybe they're perceived as like the cool guys that you kind of want to get to know just so you can be cool. But is that what you want? You want to be cool? Who the fuck wants to be cool? Being cool sucks. It's boring. No one knows you when you're cool. No one knows you when you're perceived as super cool, this like cool, mysterious guy. The only reason why these people are interesting is because there's a sense of mystery behind them. People are led into believing that these people are not even just human like you. So the main thing that I have to say about this video is with friends, with relationships, whatever, the people that you have in your life, it really is quality over quantity in this sense. Quantity will make you feel worse about things. Genuinely, they will. If you somehow manage to find a really good strike of quality and quantity, that's amazing. That's fucking amazing. It's more important to go for qualitative friendships rather than the quantitative ones. A big thing is just finding peace in your relationships, in who you surround yourself with. Not everyone's gonna be real with you. A lot of the time they won't. But the main takeaway from this video is what I urge you to do is focus on the people who matter to you. Put your time into them. Really, reach out more to them. Reach out. Just say hi. You know, there's a lot of people that I'm sure would love to hear from you. And the people who do genuinely want to hear from you, build on that. If you're feeling alone, if you feel like you don't really have any quality relationships, quality friendships in your life, think about what you're doing right now. Why isn't it working? Why aren't things going the way that you want? Why aren't you able to find these connections? And whether it's you're putting yourself in situations where you shouldn't really be because you don't relate to that, just why even bother? Why waste your energy doing that? If it's genuinely at work, you know, you don't relate to anyone, the culture at your workplace just isn't that good, maybe consider finding another place to work. Just be mindful of where your energy is actually going, because energy is something super important. When we feel so drained all the time, we don't really make an effort to improve our lives. When we have relations with other people that actually revitalize us or make us feel refreshed, almost like drinking water, you know, you drink like a nice cold water, rehydration. At the end of the day, we all want relationships like that. I guess this video is just a reminder to put some effort into your relationships. Focus on the people that matter to you, the people that you love. Spend more time with them. Family is amazing. I think it's one of the best things ever. Your day ones, don't let them go away. Don't let them become strangers, because those are the people at the end of the day that you have the longest time spent with. Those are the people who should really matter to you. And if you find, oh, like I've been friends with this person for a super long time, but I don't really think like our values align. I don't really know if I like the kind of person they are. Maybe consider distancing yourself from them. We're at the time in our lives where it's time to take action and do what we want. Do what you want. Seriously, do what you want. Who the fuck cares what you do? I don't fucking care. I don't care what you do. Most of the people in your life aren't gonna care what you do. However, the people that do care about what you do, those are the people you wanna hold on to. Those are the relationships that matter. The people who already care about you. Anyway, guys, this was a bit more of a ramble of me just trying to like make sense of this concept on my own, while also maybe giving you guys some food for thought as well, because it's an interesting thing sometimes to think about. Is like, there's been many periods of my life where I've had a lot of friends, a lot of people around me, a majority of them were mostly superficial, like I've been talking about in this video. They were just not even people I would really want to be around. They were just kind of there. And I wonder why I put myself into those situations in the first place, because since having less people in my life, things generally have been less stressful. You also find yourself putting more time with the people that you love already. And I think that's a very important thing about life, is just love. It is. It's so important and it's beautiful. I hope you guys are doing all right. I hope everybody watching this video has been having a good week. And I guess a new week is actually starting. Make the best of this week. Do something that you're going to be proud of. At the end of the week, you say, yeah, I did that and it was fucking awesome. Those are the things that matter. Focus on those.